For today's practice, you will need a bolster. This is my absolute favorite practice to unwind my evening. So I'm going to grab that bolster and just warming up the spine, shifting from left to right. You can do this either with the bolster or just with your arms. And just letting the spine unwind, noticing any sticky sensations in the upper body or the lower body. And then coming into a nice forward fold with the knees bent and using that bolster to support the top of the head and your forearms. So we're going for a nice deep stretch in the hamstrings. And I also want you to feel that connection of the rib cage on the tops of the quads. So you'll notice that my spine is kind of rounded here, and we want that. So this can help really wake up the thoracic spine as well as the hamstrings, which tend to be not so happy at the end of a work day if you work at a desk. And from here, just shifting the hips from left to right, using that bolster to just bring the floor up a little bit closer. So I like to warm up my spine and then grab that bolster and tuck it into your hip crease. So this might be a new one for some people, so this might feel a little bit strange at first, but again, it will help pull traction on that thoracic spine and lower back. And it should feel really, really good. You might feel some compression on the front of the chest, but this will help decompress the low back and the spine. And usually at the end of my workday in the evening, I like to add a little bit more pulsing and movement just to get rid of any static sensation I might be carrying around from the day. And from here, I'm going to come into a deep squat. So I have my legs nice and wide, even a little bit wider than my yoga mat, and I'm using that bolster to help support the front of my body. So my triceps, elbows, and even my shins are resting on that bolster. And then I'm bending my elbows here and using my fingertips to support my forehead. And again, the goal here is to decompress that low back and just allow some movement into the hips that might have spent the whole day being static if you were sitting. And then to come out, I'm just going to lean forward and backwards just a couple times. And then bringing that bolster in front of me. I'm going to stand up and then bring my right foot forward into a low lunge. And from here, I'm going to come onto my elbows. So if you want to use that bolster to help bring the floor closer and just stay on your hands, you're welcome to. Otherwise, if you want to take this a little bit deeper, I walk my foot out to the side so that it's at an angle, and then that gives me space to drop my rib cage down to the floor. And that bolster is supporting my other hip as well as my torso. And this is a pretty deep pose for most people. I love this pose. It helps me open up the front of my hips And again, for my evening time after work, I kind of don't spend as much time as I normally would in the morning. So I just really want to focus on movement and just getting my body to wake back up. And if you want to take this a little bit deeper, I am bending my back foot and reaching around with my right hand to grab onto that left foot. The more ways I can move my spine, I feel like the better I sleep and the better I feel the next day. And then just leaning back onto that back leg and straightening that front leg. This is helping me get into the hamstrings. So I'm just shifting my weight forwards and backwards and bending my foot. So as I'm flexing and pointing my toes, that just helps me work my ankle and also my shins. So if you've ever had an ankle injury or a foot injury, this can really, really help. Little movements can do so much. And from here, I'm bringing that right leg back to meet my left. And I'm bringing that bolster close to me to just take a transitional child's pose. So my chin is hanging off the bolster and it is kind of wedged in between my elbows and my knees. For those who have been following me for a while, I love a good bolster flow, so I find this to be just ultra cozy, and it helps you, instead of compressing in your joints, it just allows you to get a little bit more traction that we wouldn't get without the bolster. And then shifting that bolster forward, I'm going to come into that low lunge on the other side. So from here, if you just want to stay on your hands and take the pose that way. Otherwise, I'm walking my left foot out a little bit so that there's room for my rib cage. My foot is at an angle. And then I'm coming down onto my forearms. And remembering to breathe nice and deep. Just allowing any thoughts or feelings or stories about the day to completely dissolve and letting your body follow. And then to take this a little bit deeper, I'm pushing my left knee out as I prepare to bend that right knee and grab a hold of that right foot. And again, this is just to take the hip stretch a little bit deeper. You can stay exactly where you are if that's the right thing for your body today. And then reaching around with my left hand, I'm grabbing onto the top of that right foot. Another reason why I love the bolster in this pose is because it can help support that open hip, which if you're on the floor, most people tend to compress, and it just doesn't feel so great. And from here, I'm just shifting my weight back and to the front as I'm flexing that foot and elongating my hamstring. So these muscles, especially if you've been sitting all day working at a computer or even on your feet, can just become so fatigued and almost numb. And I find if I just go to bed because I'm tired or ignore that feeling, it just tends to compound over time. So a short 15-20 minute flow like this really helps my hips from feeling any pain. And I'm just going to slide that bolster off to the side. From here, I'm walking my foot over and I'm going to come into a deer pose. So my left leg is at kind of bent at 90 degrees. The front of that shin is parallel to the mat, and then I'm bringing my other knee up to 90 degrees also. And then from here, I'm actually walking my hands around in as much of 360 degrees as I can get. So I'm working all angles of the hip. And this is a little bit more of a dynamic motion rather than a static yin type motion. This does take a little bit more flexibility, so if your hips feel tight or just not up for this today, you can always just stay in that deer pose. And then from here, I'm bringing that back leg forward and coming into fire log pose. So I'm stacking my knees above my ankles and just leaning forward onto that bolster. And this is a fairly deep hip stretch. You can always place that bolster on top of your lap if leaning forward is too much, or grabbing some rolled up towels or yoga blocks and placing them underneath your knees if your knees have a hard time relaxing onto the ankles. The most important part is that you're comfortable and you're at an edge that feels like an edge but not too much. And to come out, I'm just going to lean back and bring my feet to the mat, windshield wipering my knees from side to side. And then doing that same thing on the other side. So my right leg is in front of me at 90 degrees. My shin is parallel to the front of the mat. And my left leg is also pretty close to 90 degrees. And I'm walking my hands around as much of my body as I can. And this will really help that internal and external hip rotation. And again, this is a little bit more movement than just a yin pose, but my hips love this, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys. And to come out, I'm just taking that back leg forward and stacking my ankles on top of my knees, leaning forward and relaxing on the bolster. Taking nice deep breaths in and out through the nose. Just allowing all of that deep work to kind of soak in and sizzle throughout my body. inhaling and moving that bolster off to the side and coming down onto our backs. From here, I'm just going to windshield wiper my knees from side to side. And coming into a nice figure 4 twist. So I'm bringing my ankle over to my knee and then taking a twist, so letting my knees fall all the way over to that right side. And I like a good deep twist, so I'm going to straighten my top leg. You can always leave your knees bent or in that figure 4 position. Just letting that front of the shoulder open up, the ribs open up, and maybe playing with bringing your shoulder up overhead for a deeper twist. And if you want to take this as deep as possible, you can always extend that bottom leg also. And we want to be mindful that the stretch that we're getting in our glutes is comfortable. It might feel intense, but we don't want any electrical sharp pains, as that's usually doing more harm than good. And to come out, I'm going to bend my knees, bring my feet back onto the mat, and just windshield wiper from side to side. And taking that twist on the other side, I'm going to stack my right ankle on top of my left knee in a nice figure 4, and then just let my knees fall off to the side, to that left side. And straightening that top leg if that feels good for you. And you can also bring that shoulder up overhead for a deeper twist. And or straightening that bottom leg. Taking deep breaths in through the nose and exhaling out the nose. And then on your next inhale, bringing your feet back over ever so slowly onto the mat. Windshield wipering your knees from side to side. And then I'm bringing the soles of my feet together, so I'm taking a supine butterfly. You can play with how far your heels are from your hips to make this more comfortable, or you can just extend your legs out long for a nice starfish pose and final relaxation. Returning to your natural breath. And just allowing your body and the nervous system to feel the effects of all of that deep dynamic stretching. Even though we aren't holding these poses for a long time, I still consider this a yin practice, as I'm just going deep within and feeling as deep as possible, moving my awareness to each area. Scanning my body for sensations and moving my breath right to where that sensation is in my body. And if you are in that supine butterfly, extending your legs out long, inhaling your arms up overhead, and gently rolling over onto your left side, and pushing yourself back up to a comfortable seat.